Idaho's News Channel 7. This is Viewpoint.
Good morning and welcome to Viewpoint. I'm Joe Paris. I could tell you all about growth in Idaho, but you already know the deal. People are flocking to the gem state. It's a great place to be, so I can't really blame anyone. And when we talk about growth, Meridian, Idaho, that's a major bastion of exciting community growth, and the infrastructure reflects it from east to west. Meridian Mayor Robert Simison recently gave his State of the City address, bringing up a collection of big ideas, showing a great vision for the future of Meridian in a big way. And we heard some great details from the mayor and wanted to expand on the excitement and possibilities. So without further ado, our guest this week is Meridian Mayor Robert Simison. Welcome back to the program. I feel like we just had you here. Time flies.
It's been a few months, but it's great to be back, Joe. Appreciate it.
The weather's been so nice lately, and admittedly, I live in Meridian. The city and the area, it just comes alive when it starts getting really nice outside, especially when the kids get out of school.
Yeah, when the kids get out of school, when Roaring Springs gets open, who's celebrating their 25th year here in the community, it's a different feel. And we got out into the parks, into Settlers Park, not just 2 weeks ago, and was handing out popsicles to kids who are there enjoying the splash pad, and it was just a great feeling.
To me, it seemed like it almost happened overnight, where like it's cold, it's windy, and then all of a sudden the parks are filled. People are playing pickleball night and day, especially with the late sunsets we have here. I mean, people are out at that park. I mean, I go by there all the time. 10 o'clock at night, you would think that they had lights over everything.
Yeah, the people are trying to use the parks as much as they can, and my son's no different. We live in South Meridian, where we just did an expansion of Discovery Park that I talked about in the State of the City, and they're down there. They're in every park, using every amenity all the time.
When you talk about Meridian, and really over the last several years, it's changed. Now you have all of these different major areas, like Shields, like the Topgolf area, In-N-Out Hamburger, of course. As mayor, is it hard to, collect all of these major spots and maintain everything, or is it kind of just come with the territory?
Well, this is a great part about having a community like this, where you have different parts where people can go to, and everyone doesn't have to go to the exact same location. And so when you have, whether it's your parks are dispersed, your fun gathering spots are dispersed, we've got a variety of places that people can go in Meridian to be entertained. You don't have to drive 45 minutes to get to just one. Depending upon where you live, you've got a plethora of opportunities.
And when, you talk about the growth in Meridian, something I wouldn't say unique, but something that is different about Meridian is the growth has not slowed down like we've seen in other places in Idaho. Do you feel that continued growth, consciously, or is it at this point, hey, Meridian, when we're talking about Meridian, growth is, of course, in the beginning of the conversation?
Well, I think Treasure Valley in Idaho and Meridian growth has been the reoccurring issue for 30 years in one way or another, and we're just continuing that process. We're not growing as fast as we were 15 years ago, but we've been consistent and steady over the last 4 to 5 years. And when we really talk about the things, and people, if they want to talk about affordable housing, you have to have more housing to try to keep in line with the prices for the community. So it's a delicate balance. But we've been pretty steady in our commercial and our residential growth over the last 4 to 5 years, where we've been able to continue to have those new amenities that people love, and also bring in different housing products that people need. And it's a delicate balance, but it's an important balance, and that goes to all the services we provide.
And when I drive through Meridian, I mean, it's hard not to see developments or future sites of things, especially when you go out towards 10 Mile. Is that like a conscious thing that you see that, all right, we're setting ourselves up for the future, we're gonna have places to put people, it's just gonna take a little time to get it all built up?
Yeah, it's conscious in the standpoint of the city. We've really been planning. We put together the comprehensive plan. We talk about where we put our services. We invest in those services ourselves, but then it's on the development community. They're the partners, and they're the ones that are making the investment in what makes sense where. We just want to make sure that we're not growing everywhere all the time, but that's why we understand the northwest part of Meridian and the southeast part of Meridian, the downtown 10 Mile. Those are areas where we have known that growth was going to occur, and we've tried to make sure we have services around there to the best of our can and work with our partners like the schools and the libraries to make sure they're also making those investments.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the state of the city, and by a little bit, I mean that's the focus of our program. So, okay, something that captured my attention right away, the new auditorium district. For those that didn't see the state of the state, what's the pitch here, and I guess what would it involve?
Well, auditorium districts, many of us don't even realize that there are auditorium districts or similar types of things all around the country. When you travel to another place, you get a hotel room, you're paying a fee when you're at that hotel room that is funding likely the convention space that you're going to or something like that. So that's what we're really talking about in Meridian, is a place where when people come to our community, they'll pay a fee at the hotels, and then that fee will go towards funding a facility that we would have in our community. What we've identified, by we mean the Meridian Chamber, who's really been the leaders in this effort, is a multi-event sports complex. You know, we like to think of a building that could host about 8 basketball courts at once, or 16 volleyball courts, or as I'd like to say in the state of the city, 1 high school graduation in Meridian, where you need a space that can accommodate 5,000 to 10,000 people one way or the other to pull that off.
And when you work with the chamber and you hear feedback from the community, is this something that you're hearing from people that we have a lot of people coming through Meridian, we might as well build a brand new facility to put them all into?
Well, it's actually more the opposite. We have a lot of people that leave the Treasure Valley to go to other locations for these type of events and tournaments. You know, whether it's a cheer team that you got to go someplace else, or people that are in a basketball league and they got to travel to another community, this actually gives the opportunity for them to do stuff right here in their own backyard. That's really a lot of the community value and benefit for the local people who would really benefit from this. What it actually is, when it's built, there's a lot of steps to get to that point in time, but there'll be benefits to our businesses. There'll be benefits to the residents who have an opportunity to go to the events and activities that are there. So it's really just a great opportunity for the community to have an asset that we can use. And those that visit our community are the ones that will help fund it.
To me, when we talk about this, it's a real reminder of just the family-oriented community that Meridian is. If you go to Home Court Meridian, for example, you'll just see a ton of youth basketball players and families, and it just seems like when you talk about what do we want a city to be, I would imagine, as the mayor, it would be pretty satisfying to see all these young families out being part of community events. I mean, people are out and doing things always in Meridian.
Absolutely, and you mentioned the Home Court. We don't have enough space. Whether there's home court, whether it's in our parks, we're always looking for more places for people in our community to get out and do things or host an event that, we don't have the size of space that's necessary to host that event. So, yeah, we want to get our community engaged and enjoying what we think are important things. And, if it helps our businesses as well, that's why the chamber's involved. They see the community value, but they also see the value to the local business community who will have those hotel rooms full, or more people attending the restaurants that we all get to enjoy. But they aren't always full, so we want that.
The best compliment that I got when I had family visiting recently in Meridian, they said, "Oh, well, this is a place where I would like to live." They said, we're not going to move here because we're already set up in Colorado. But to me, when I hear that and I hear about the auditorium district, what steps need to be taken to, I guess, make this auditorium district happen, and then for everything to kind of synergize its way out?
Well, the first step is it's a petition. A lot of stuff starts there, and so Chamber and other volunteers are out knocking doors. I know they're out this weekend doing that, trying to get about 1,400 signatures, which are needed in order to put on the ballot. If they get those signatures, it'll be on the ballot in November, and then it takes a 50% plus one vote in order to establish the auditorium district. And then once that's established, that will determine who's going to serve on the auditorium district, and they really begin that true planning phase, making those decisions. What will be built? Where will it be built? Those are those things that will happen next, but there is a vision, and I think that's the important thing for the community to understand is we understand what we are advocating for, and maybe by next year, January, you can actually see stuff start to take shape.
When you talk about Meridian, we can't talk about growth without infrastructure and people driving on the roads. I know that you touched on a proposed pilot project for variable speeds on Eagle Road in a corridor to kind of help with some of the congestion. What's the idea? How would it work?
Well, for us in Meridian, we've always been concerned about the speed that people drive through Meridian on Eagle Road. when there's accidents that happen, whether it's someone who's turning left and they get hit broadside, or it's a rear end accident, the speed that you're traveling impacts the severity of an accident. So we've been really focused on trying to, how do we make it safer on Eagle Road for people to travel? So ITD, we've been working along with them. They came up with this proposal to do a variable speed corridor. During a couple times during the day when there's heavier congestion, so that we can get people to try to slow down and be safer. And that's an important part of what we're trying to accomplish. And for our police department, the yellow signs, people may or may not know this, yellow signs on roads are not enforceable. When you're driving up Highway 55 and it says slow down to 35 around that curve, that's what they tell you is their recommendation, but it doesn't change the enforceability at that location. So we really needed ITD in order to help us come up with a solution that our police department can actually go out and say, hey, it's time to slow down. There's congestion, and when you see speed limits that say 55, you tend to have an expectation as a driver that that's what you should be able to drive. And sometimes we just know that's not the fact on Eagle Road.
We do have to take a real quick break, but you are watching Viewpoint with our guest, Meridian Mayor Robert Simison. We'll be right back with some more on the future of Meridian.
July is Idaho Beef Month, and Idaho Today is sizzling up a savory summer, highlighting the beef industry from farm to table. Watch and celebrate with us. It's all happening in July. Weekdays on Idaho Today, sponsored by the Idaho Beef Council.
The story of a country line dancer who gave her pain the boot. This is Shelley.
Once I start dancing, I forget where I am.
So what was tripping her up?
Foot pain, knee pain, and back pain.
Then she got fitted for Good Feet arch supports.
It was magical. I knew, oh my gosh, this is what I need to stay on the dance floor.
And stay there, Shelley does.
That's my happy place. I'm not going to stop.
Step in for your free fitting at the Good Feet store.
This is what Bill calls home, and this is what Janice calls office. And by day, it's the home office. But sometimes, it's the guest room. California Closets designed this space with purpose by listening to Janice and to Bill, whose parents sleep here when they're in town visiting. From here. This is a stapler. Nobody wants to look at a stapler. This is where it goes. This is where Janice gets her energy. This is where Bill gets his. This is Janice's home office and Bill's and the guest room. This is who helped make it happen. Schedule your free design consultation now.
Deer Unleashed. No one knows the feeling of freedom quite the way you do. But damned if we don't come really, really close. Let's break the chain. Yours, Tundra.
Right now, you can lease a new 2024 Tundra for just $579 per month. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
NetCredit is here to say yes, even when other lenders won't. Apply online in minutes and get funds deposited the next business day or sooner. NetCredit. Credit to the people.
Hey, welcome back to Viewpoint. I want to jump right back into our conversation with Meridian Mayor Robert Simison. Mayor, I know that we're taping this right before Father's Day weekend, and I know there are a lot of fathers out there that are going to want to hit the golf course this weekend. For starters, for those new to the area or not aware, there's a lot of good golf to be played in Meridian.
Yeah, we've got, Lakeview Golf Club is the one that the city is a city facility, and that's where I'll be playing at on Saturday with a friend. I think it's our way of celebrating a little Father's Day and getting together in that contest. And got some private courses with Spur Wing up north, and then a couple that aren't in Meridian but are nearby that we all really appreciate. But it's a great activity to get out on Father's Day weekend, as the U.S. Open is part of that.
Yes, and with the U.S. Open weekend, I know I'll be one of the people sitting at home saying, oh, this is fun. I want to go out and do this. In our area, though, the Lakeview Golf Club. Tell me about the ideas. I hear there are some improvements in the works.
Yeah, we made a lot of improvements at that course over the last several years, from the underground infrastructure to most recently some improvements inside the clubhouse and putting some shade on the patio, which makes it more enjoyable for everyone to attend and be outside, even if you don't want to play golf. But we still have some more to do in this upcoming budget. Trying to put some restrooms out on the course. Just to up the standards to what we see and need in our facilities here at Meridian. We like to have all of our parks be premier, and we need to make sure that the golf course is no different.
It would seem like these are exciting problems to have. Getting to improve parks, getting to improve the golf course. As mayor, how much pride and enjoyment do you get in talking through things like, hey, let's make the golf course even better?
You know, what I get proud of is when I see our employees proud of the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
And when we hear from the community about how proud they are of the facilities that they get to enjoy, that's what gives me the pride in that. And we've got an excellent crews that are out there, and our parks are our most public-facing asset. They're not the only asset, though. You know, our wastewater treatment plant, those employees take great pride in that facility, and all of our water wells and water quality facilities. Our employees care about the work they do and the facilities we have, and they take great pride in making them be a community asset that our community can appreciate.
And you mentioned wastewater treatment, and that's something that we've seen more community attention through COVID when we started to talk about what was in the wastewater and kind of the testing done on it. In terms of, I guess, feedback, is that something that you guys hear about, or is this more of an internal thing of, all right, we want to make improvements to the wastewater treatment center because, well, people need to have good water?
Yeah, well, there's a couple different aspects to it. First, you have your regulatory requirements that you have to do, and that's a lot of what the improvements we're doing right now is, we've been told you need to meet certain specifications in order to operate your facility, and so those investments are there. There's also, though, needs as you grow that you just have to have more to process through that stuff, and that's another part of it. And then water, I say, our residents deserve the highest quality water they can get, and if we need to make investments to make that water something that, isn't going to be brown when it comes out, not because it's bad water, just because the chemicals, the reaction that's occurred when you bring water up, we're making those investments, and I think our citizens are happier for it.
I was watching some clips actually from the movie Bronco Billy. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So there's a lot of scenes that are shot in the Meridian area
Yeah.
in 1979, and it was released in 1980. When you look at old clips, and maybe not as far back as 1980, and you reflect on the growth, I guess how would you evaluate how quickly we've come over the last few decades, and then compare it to what we've seen in recent years?
Well, the first thing I'll say is a lot of those facilities that are in Bronco Billy still exist in our community today. So while we've changed since the 80s, that historic part of Meridian is still very clear and present in that context. But, like in many communities, I think Meridian has grown in the way that they need to. First comes the houses, second come the commercial. Third comes, I think, those true community assets like those convention centers, auditorium districts. Those are what elevate that community to the next level, and I think that's what we're seeing in Meridian at this time.
In terms of the growth, we've talked about some of the exciting opportunities, but some of the realities in growth. What, I guess, roadblocks are currently, in play to, have growth pay for itself and kind of pace that self? Because as great as growth is, sometimes it can be a challenge.
It can be, and we've always had the mantra in Meridian, the growth pays for growth. But as legislation changes and those impacts, it becomes harder for that to be the case. We've had legislation passed where they've said, well, when new construction comes on, we're only going to give you a portion of it. We're not going to give you the full amount that you used to receive. Or as property values go up, the levy rate goes down, and that levy rate drives the dollars that you'll get from that new growth. So, you look back 10 years, what we're getting about the same amount for growth that we were, but our police officer costs have doubled in that time frame. So you're not actually covering the costs that you need. And that's just what happens when the legislature, does what they think is the right thing, but it actually impacts cities in ways that makes it harder for us to provide the services that our people want and expect.
I would imagine that, come January or likely before that, you would be down at the Capitol kind of talking with lawmakers. Do they seem receptive, especially ones that are not in Meridian?
Well, you tend to focus on those that are in Meridian, and you try to get them to see your perspective so that we have laws that are good for our residents. Tax policy is a hard thing, though, and that's what it really comes down to. It comes down to revenues and taxes, and you don't sometimes always know what truly is going to happen until it gets implemented, and then you can go back and have the conversations. But, House Bill 389 from a few years ago, we knew this was going to be a challenge when they started putting caps in, and, that's definitely impacted Meridian since that bill's been into a tune of about $1.4 million annually and growing. And that's about 10 police officers or 10 firefighters that we could have, which are needed today in our community.
With House Bill 389, I know there's been some contention over that over the last several years. In terms of, I guess, proposals or ideas from the city of Meridian, what direction would you hope the state would move in that lawmakers would be receptive to?
Well, if I'm talking, holistically for the state of Idaho, the 8% cap really isn't realistic for smaller communities. It really hampers them. An 8% may seem like a lot, but to a small community, you bring in one subdivision, and they're not getting the adequate resources in order to do that. For us, we just want growth to pay for growth. I think that's the key in our situation. And when you arbitrarily put in caps on certain dollar figures that for new growth, that has long-term ongoing impacts. And these are things that our residents, those are okay with growth, they don't want to pick up the tab, and that's what the law is asking residents to do now, is pay more so that the growth can be here.
Because I've also spoke with, Meridianites that say, I don't want to be penalized because I've lived here for a long time. I appreciate all the new things, but at the same time, I've lived here since the 1970s, and it doesn't feel fair that I'm being penalized for, this new age.
And unfortunately, that's what we're seeing with the impacts for these laws. And so hopefully the legislature will someday make some adjustments to that so that we can have growth paying for itself and not, impacting our communities that are seeing that growth.
Let's talk a little bit about something that might have been my favorite part of the State of the City, the Mayor's Water Tower Championship. What's the idea here? Where did it come from? Well,
the idea, I've always loved high school sports, and I regularly go and attend football games and basketball games. Even though my kids aren't playing, I just like to go. And I think high school sports really bring communities together. And sometimes healthy rivalry and competition is a very good thing. I think that's kind of where this came from. You've got Meridian High School, who's been a perennial wrestling champs over the last several years. Owyhee in basketball, our track, Rocky Mountain. They all do a great job, and sometimes, there's that little bit healthy chirping, but it was like, well, let's put together an idea that we can really try to say, who is the community champion in Meridian in our 4 high schools? And so it came out of conversations that we had with West Ada, and we think that this is going to be a great way to engage, it could be the faculties, it could be, our different council members who have a school and in their own district that they can, engage and have fun. So we're just trying to bring the community out and say, every game matters. Academics is a part of it. Let's have a little healthy competition and see what we can do to crown a community champion.
And I've talked to people in the community from Meridian and outside the Meridian. They were like, yeah, how come no one's thought of this before? The question that I received was, what would the physical championship look like? Would it just be like a version of the water tower?
We're working on that currently. I think it will look like the water tower. I don't know if it'll be a 3-dimensional, 2-dimensional. We're exploring some different options, but we look forward to unveiling it on September 13th at when we actually kind of kick this off officially, when Rocky and Mountain View play at Mountain View Stadium.
And when you have these, premier rivalries that our high school sports team follows, it's not just the attention from Meridian, especially when you talk about things like the Owyhee basketball team. These are top-tier athletes that go on to do very special things at the collegiate and oftentimes professional level.
Absolutely. We've got great, talented young individuals and coaches who are teaching them, and community that supports them. As I've been doing physical therapy recently for a ski injury, we talked about skiing last time I was here. I was down and learning about the businesses that are supporting our high school sports teams as they're coming in during state tournaments to get refreshed before they go back out on the court. These are people who are committed to having fun safely and producing great athletes.
I know that we're short for time, so real quickly, it's a beautiful weekend. We're going to have temperatures in the 70s. If you were to suggest to the community, what's one thing that I can get out with the family to do this weekend, or any real weekend this summer, what would be the mayor's pick for just a few ideas?
A few ideas, I'm going to say go enjoy our new connections along our pathway that runs from downtown now out past the wastewater treatment plant. We just completed it, so we got an 8-mile section of continuous pathway in Meridian. I think that's a great thing, but enjoy our parks. They're all have great amenities that you can go and do. Take that out, go play some pickleball. If they don't know, learn it. So just get out and enjoy the weather.
It's perfect. And of course, the splash pads as it gets a lot warmer. I know that we'll have the 70s this weekend, but we'll get back to triple digits soon. Absolutely. Well, Meridian Mayor Robert Simison, thank you so much for joining us here on Viewpoint. I'm sure we'll check in again soon. We do have to step aside real quickly, but we will wrap up Viewpoint right after this.
If you want to save big on taxes and feel it's unfair billionaires get all the breaks, today's guest has some great news for you. I'm here with Ryan Thacker of Boss Retirement Solutions, a 5-time winner of the Best of State Award. Ryan, tell us this story.
Well, Nisha, you've heard of Peter Thiel. He invested his way to $5 billion without owing a dime in taxes. And the good news is we all have access to the same tax savings tool. When he co-founded PayPal in 1999, he bought shares of his company through a Roth account. Now, his account is worth $5 billion, but the biggest story is he doesn't owe a dime of taxes on it because he used the Roth account. 100% of his earnings are tax-free, and now you can make the most of this same legal tax-saving tool by converting your traditional IRA into a Roth account, Nisha.
Wow. So what advice do you have for our viewers who want to know if a Roth account is right for them?
You want to do this right. The first time, you don't want to make any mistakes or that will cause headaches. And so we'll show you how with a free customized Roth conversion analysis. Here's how it works. We get some basic information from you, and one of our fiduciary advisors runs the numbers to show you exactly how much money you could save by converting to a Roth. And we want to help make the most informed decision about this Roth conversion today.
Ryan, thank you so much. To learn how much you could save in taxes when you retire, call Boss now for a free customized Roth conversion analysis. If you've saved at least $200,000, just call the number on your screen to schedule your free analysis. There's no cost or obligation, but you must call today to get on their calendar. They've helped thousands of families save on their taxes when they retire, and they can help you too. So call now.
Well, we are out of time here on our Viewpoint program. Again, thank you to Meridian Mayor Robert Simison for stopping by on the program. If you wanted to learn more about his state of the city and his vision for the future of Meridian, you can head to our website at ktvb.com. We also have his full State of the City up on the KTVB YouTube channel if you wanted to go back and watch any of it yourself. I will tell you, there is a major thing that we continue to follow on News Channel 7, and that is water rights in Idaho. Didn't have time to get into it this week, but on a future episode of Viewpoint, we'd really like to dive into Idaho water law and what's going on with the conflict. I would advise you, go to ktvb.com right now. You can read some of our comprehensive coverage of what's going on in eastern Idaho and why regular Idahoans should care about water and the future of water right here in the Treasure Valley. Of course, we are taping this right before Father's Day weekend, so I do want to say a happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there across the Treasure Valley. I'd love to say a happy Father's Day to my dad, Jeff, who watches in Denver, Colorado. Well, folks, that's all we got for Viewpoint. As always, you can check us out at ktvb.com, and you can always watch old episodes of Viewpoint to take a look at what you might have missed on the KTVB YouTube channel. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time.